Hi everyone. Good morning and welcome to another podcast edition. My name is Temitope Ajayi, and with me is I'm saying my employer. I mean, someone I've known for very long, and he was the first ever person to believe in my skills, and he gave me the opportunity to start off in tech. And it was one of our very first inspirations for many of us when we first started. I asked some of the guys I know now, and we are like, we really appreciate the our first meeting. It was basically an introduction to technology, to tech, how we can leverage on technology skills and things like that, building products. And that was where the whole journey started from. And with me is an amazing person, Mr. Segun Ajayi. But yeah, let's do a little introduction of himself first.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I can just go ahead and introduce myself. So, my name is Segun Ajayi. I'm a software engineer. I've been working, should I say, working professionally as a software engineer since 2017 when I started with Neptune Software Limited. So, and yeah, primarily, I think before that time, I was primarily doing HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP. I do a lot of stuff around that. But then post that, I've done more of Java. I've done a few things using React, a few things using Angular. So yes, you can see I've played around with many of the stuffs. And over the years too, I've come to understand software development, things to look out for, technology. And right now, I am having a self-training to become a full-fledged AI. Yeah, so that's a bit about myself.
Amazing. Although I say you have been on with it, you did also include the fact that you are the founder and CEO of Tech Everywhere Tech TV. But it's fine. It's fine. All right. So one thing that has been really grave in the past couple months, past couple years, has been the advent of or the importance of technology adoption. The importance of technology adoption for whether business owners or individuals. We've gotten to the age where it's no longer coal and gas or it's no longer agriculture, but people are starting to look towards technology, advancements, and insights that we can start to glean from AI and technology. Uh, but when people say technology adoption, what's the usual misconception? What really is technology adoption, and what should we be looking at? Or are we looking at things differently?
Okay, so from my understanding, technology adoption basically, there was an old way of how we do things, possibly the manual way of doing things. Try to call it maybe the manual revolution. Translate into technology. I think on the layman, on the surface level, that's what people are. What we call technology? Anything that makes you do your work. For example, before we would have had the conversation. So, so now that we can have the room, we can have the conversation even without having to be in the same physical space. That is technology. It is also possible that even you having this conversation in physical space, now you can record them. The only way you could record them then is if one person is writing minutes with his hand. So, but now you can record them and the person can go back to it. You can see the video of it. So that is also technology. So technology, in my own opinion, is just a way of making things. Technology adoption is just you picking up things that will make things work better for you. There are some technology ideas that cannot really adopt. They cannot really say you want to say you want to they are not something that will help their process, their current process, etc. So if you're going to really put technology adoption in a nutshell, you'll be concerned about something that will make what you're doing.
Amazing. I think in a nutshell, technology adoption for people is what makes us do our work easier and better. And that's been the whole advent of what we've been seeing these past few days. People are popping up solutions here and there that is able to solve problems and give people solution to current problems that they are facing. But now, when we talk about businesses, I mean, what does technology adoption mean for businesses, and how does it change the game? How does it change the game for businesses nowadays?
So technology adoption for business, to be fair, it's a tough call. The reason why it's a tough call is that many times people have built their business around processes. So, for example, now if I'm somebody who my business is around delivering stationaries to an hotel, obviously that is my business. So, if you're telling me to adopt technology into that business, yeah, you might likely take me out of business because it means that instead of them using the stationaries I'm using, they are possibly using computers and laptops. So when you are looking at it with respect to technology adoption for business, you need to consider it from two perspectives. You need to consider it from the client and from the vendor. I'll put it that way. So if the business in this position is serving as a client, the client is trying to review to say, okay, yes, what are the processes of how we're doing things within our organization and how can we make it smarter? Sometimes smarter does not necessarily mean cheaper because a lot of persons think that when they adopt technology into their business, it automatically means that they are going for a cheaper route. So that's when you start saying, ah, we used to, when we were doing it manually, these are much, we spend 200 naira. Now you are telling us to bring $2,000. But why it is smarter is because it is possible that the guy that you are doing with 200 naira, say you want to do some searching, you want to try and look back, maybe audit purposes, recordings, you want to see things that have happened in the past. It may be difficult if you have manual books of papers where you are also afraid that they should not go and get burnt. Because if they get burnt, you lose all those data. But now if you have backed them up in the cloud and all those things, you have access to them forever. So that's number one in terms of looking at technology adoption for business in terms of the clients. If you are looking at it from the place of a vendor zone is a bit more tricky because now you want to look at your clients, not just one client. You look at your several clients, you look at the business you are proposing, the business you have been doing with them, and you are now looking at how can I stay in business. So you want to refine your products. So for example, when Google possibly started with just maybe Gmail and the rest of the few things to search engine. Now, Google has decided to adopt AI into Google, where you see Gemini. And the essence of why Google is doing Gemini is because they are trying to refine their product to their clients in such a way that they make sure they don't lose their clients. So, if you are looking at technology adoption, like I said, from for the business, you have to look at it from the perspective of the clients and look at it from the perspective of the vendor. If it's for the client is looking at their internal process. If it's for the vendor is looking at all their different clients. And they are thinking, how can I stay in business? So that's what I would really say concerning that.
Mm. But in truth, we've seen, given the example you gave earlier, I mean, the stationary person, we've seen real life scenarios where technology has started to replace business processes. What we used to do manually, technology has started to replace and take over that particular space, and many businesses have run out. So, are we saying that in this day and age, we should still be looking towards the processes? I mean, if the processes used to work, let's still look forward to them, or we should start to glean towards the technology, because if we picture this right, I mean, everyone is using technology, everyone is using all of those things. What do you think? What do you think should be the focus for businesses right now? What should they be looking towards?
Okay, so the thing is very simple. Except if you are part of the 1% in the world. If I ask you to calculate 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, 8, 4, 7, 11.2576 plus, and I put another very long figure, you possibly will take about some 3 minutes to get it done. But then if you pick up a calculator and then you punch it in, you get the answer almost instantly. So what are you trying to discover is that the technology is not necessarily replacing humans. What it's actually doing is that it's giving humans the capacity to do more. So before it possibly will take you 2 days before you can balance a very I'm not an accountant, but maybe before you can particular maybe you can do a particular task, maybe take about 2 days. Okay, let me use the auto industry. I think that one makes more sense. So a good part of the auto industry before it could take maybe some number of days before they can produce 10 cars. But right now, they will just automate many of the parts, especially the parts around where they are fixing the parts of the body parts of the car. It's the same type of car for all the Venza, so it's the same body parts. So they just use the automation, they use the robots that they are put in place to just fit in all those parts of the car, fit in the engine where they need to fit in. There is nothing different that changes. It's the same process, they're just doing it for hundreds of parts. And then you can see that now they can churn out 1,000 cars in a month. So the difference is not like as if the human beings now have to redefine their roles. Instead of having to be the one to manually carry the engine, so it's no longer about brawn now, it's no longer about strength. It's now more about brain. So two things. Number one is that companies have to embrace technology they want to do more. That's a blunt fact. I watched a news yesterday, and the economist then, fine, from what he was saying, you know, he's not really a tech person, but at least he's an economist. He understands it from an economic perspective. And he was saying that for any country to grow right now, it's not about what is in the ground, it's about what is in the brain. So, and he was making reference to the fact that now young persons need to load up the space of tech. So what I see is two things. Number one, people need to get better skilled, redefine our roles, get better and better in what so that we can have more and more. Because if you want to be able to do two good things at the same time, you need to be able to embrace technology. So that's where it is. I think companies should embrace technology, and then we as individuals should redefine ourselves, get skilled.
Amazing, amazing. Uh, Embracing technology, right? I mean, considering the illustration you gave of the economics that was speaking yesterday, how that we are now looking towards the brain, not what is on the hand, not what is on ground, rather. I mean, it just basically points to the fact that it's ideas, problem solving, things that are intangible that are now becoming tangible. That's the true reality of what the world we are living in right now. But as a follow up to that question, I mean, what exactly are the costs of slow adoption of non-adoption for businesses? I mean, what exactly can we look at as the cost for not adopting or slowly adopting technology in this day and age? Of course, we understand that it's important, but I mean, what's at stake here?
Okay, so there are a few examples that I always use. So some of them, to be fair, is not necessarily because maybe they slowly adopted technology. Sometimes when you say slowly adopting technology, like from what I explained in the previous comments, you discover that it's not even necessarily about the technology per se. Sometimes it can be about the idea. I'll give you a practical example.
Mm.
Yahoo and Gmail, they are both technologies. But Yahoo Mail was started in 1994. Gmail started in 2004. That's like Yahoo Mail, like 10 years ahead. But right now, you have more persons with Gmail accounts than Yahoo Mail accounts. Or let me say, you have more persons with active Gmail accounts than active Yahoo accounts, if that is better put in perspective. And it's not because the two companies are not doing kind of like the same thing, but one of them chose to redefine their ideas over the years. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
Now, there are some beautiful
Mm.
things. You may not notice them, but there are some things that you can do on Gmail. At the beginning, when you still used to have Gmail, Gmail was just this long white place that shows your inbox. It was a white plain stuff. After some time, they did it in
Mm.
such a way that you can choose your background. Right now, I can use a chessboard as my background. I can use under the sea as my background. Then after some time, they also did something where you can create more folders, you can archive some mails. Okay, yes, you archive them into this folder, you archive them into this folder, you archive them into this folder. After some time, you can search through all your mails. There's a big search at the top where you can search through all the emails to see what exactly is going on. And after some time, for whatever amazing reason, they were able to partition the inbox mails that comes into the ones that really inbox, the ones that are promotions, and the ones that maybe socials. I think that what they partitioned it. Then after that, recently they've released one called updates. So I don't know what's the logic around what goes to that one. So but they call that one I think updates. Then after some time too as well, you now have it in such a way that they have brought up Google Calendar where you can have meetings and then they tie it to your Google Calendar, it will show on your Google Calendar and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is that they have both used technology, but they have found a way to adopt it faster than each other. The world is an unforgiving place. So coming to your question, the world is an unforgiving place. So if you slowly adopt technology, if you close your eyes and you open it, you will be surprised that after some time you're out of market. I was doing a research this morning because I'm always very fantasized about doing all this kind of research. So I was checking out about these what we call them neobanks. The neobanks. What are the neobanks that are operating in Nigeria? And I was happy to see that Kuda is Nigerian. So the guys who started Kuda are Nigerians. Fine, I know that Palmpay is Chinese, but Kuda is Nigerian. Now, one of the beautiful things that got me about the Kuda app is the fact that it started in 2019. If you close your eyes and you open, 2019 is just like 7 years ago. But the way we talk about
Yeah.
Kuda sounds more like a traditional bank that has been for ages. But that's not true. Many of the banks who are the traditional ones that we're used to, which I will not necessarily mention names, well, many of them that we're used to are probably at least 20 years older than Kuda. And Kuda is operating in Nigeria and Kuda is operating in UK. So basically, the cost for slowly adopting technology is you end up freezing away if you're not careful. So because people are thinking every single day, every single minute. I used to use one analogy. You see somebody would start yesterday he opened bread shop yesterday in the street. And then somebody else feels like, this person has started bread shop. If he's not careful, he opens his eyes and he closes his eyes. The next day, three people have opened bread shop in that same street. So that's the only grace he has, the only grace, and this is what I would say, the only grace you have is that there is a special, let me use that word, there's a special grace for you who is doing it for the first time because technically, if you know how to manage it well, you will always be one step ahead. So if, for example, yesterday you opened the bread shop, today is when the others are just opening their own bread shop. If you are thinking well today and you are not resting on your laurels of yesterday, if you are thinking well today, you will do something today that the others will have to catch up from you tomorrow. Instead of so, and then you always continue to stay ahead. But the moment you sleep for one day, they will catch up with you. So that's just the best illustration around it. So if you slowly adopt technology, after some time, people will catch up with you. After some time, you will fizzle away. I use one more example. Jumia started in I think 20 was it 2016 or 20. I may not have but I know it's in the early 2010s to the mid 2010s. And some weeks ago, I was googling the top 20 best companies or the top 20 best companies by economy in Nigeria, and Jumia is one of them. You'll be surprised. Jumia is one of them. So, and that's a company that is barely 20 years old. I don't think it's up to 20 years, yes, of course. So, and it's doing that already. So it's not even up to 15 years. So it's very possible. And mind you, there are guys who started with Jumia at the same time, which I will not mention names, and they possibly not as big. Some of them might have fizzled out.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. So two extras I saw from there. Number one is evolution. If you're not evolving, you are going to fizzle out. And if another thing is speed, evolution and speed. The rate at which technology is growing, companies are adapting. All of those things are evolving. You need to keep up with evolution and speed. If you're not constantly upgrading your processes or your technology stack, or what you're offering, you are going to fizzle out. It then begs me to the final question. Well, how do you think the scope of the economy, technology, how do you think technology is going to affect the scope of the economy in the coming years? In say 5 years, 10 years, how do you think technology would have impacted our economy as we know it?
Okay, so I think that's a very good question. At the beginning, when technology was first branded as technology, it was put in one square box. But right now, people have now seen the reason to diversify or to break down, let me use the word diversify, to break down technology. So now you hear people talking IT services, you hear people talking fintechs, you hear people talking cloud services or ISPs, you hear people talking about software, they just mentioned it as software, you hear people talking about computer hardware and networking. So people have now come to realize that there is a need to break them down. If I will take them step by step, the way I see it, I see software only getting better. It might sound biased, but unfortunately, it's the truth. Software will only get better. I've had people have conversations around maybe okay, there maybe AI with the advent of AI is not necessarily replacing technology. AI is not necessarily replacing software. If I use that word, because AI too is being adapted into software. You see now many people are building different. Say for example, now if you go online to Jumia now, and say you want to buy something on Jumia, as you are buying Pampers, Jumia is recommending baby wears for you because there's a recommendation system in place which is also leveraging AI. So if you go to all the social media platforms too as well and you see Meta AI, you see this one AI, you see that one AI. So software will only continue to expand. And software will expand because people are thinking of new ideas. People are finding a way to put all the processes that people do on maybe a mobile device or on the web application. So that's for software. Now for maybe IT consulting, IT services, which software still falls under stylishly. But for IT consulting, I think what you just end up having is that you have you have more of middlemen. There are different um roles that are coming up day by day. For example, we used to have project managers. Now we now say we have products managers. And apart from that, we now have solutions architects. Now we have DevOps, we have SysOps. So we have DevOps guys, we also have SysOps guys, and we try and differentiate the two of them. So where the SysOps guys more or less focus on the hardware infrastructure, and the DevOps guys focus more on the integration with the OS and stuff along that. So what I see is that because things are going to, there is still a lot that needs to be revamped in terms of technology. So there's still, at least we've watched several movies since the early 2000s about people working on, about people working on, should I say, on, should I call it drones now, but about cars that are moving that are not using tires to walk on the road. But yet we don't yet have them in commercial quantity at the moment in the world today. So there's still a lot to do. So what I see happening is it will be criminal, number one, it will be criminal to just say how technology is going to impact the economy. Because if I'm going to say how technology is going to impact the economy, then I'm almost telling maybe at least 70%. However, you might need to break them down to okay, IT services, AI, software, edutech, fintech. You get my point. Health tech, all these things. So when you break them down, you will now discover that okay, yes, this because the fintech, the financial industry will not want to let go of the fintechs. So it will be difficult for you to classify the fintechs just solely as technology. Shey you understand? Because if you calculate them solely as technology, it will reduce the numbers of the financial industry. And the last time, even if you check currently Elon Musk, if you check on Forbes and you check, okay, what are the industry that Elon Musk is playing in? They didn't put it as technology. They didn't put it as IT. They put it as telecommunications. Exactly. So they put it as telecommunications. So because they put it as telecommunications and automobile. Yeah, automobile. Because they still want to categorize Tesla. Tesla that it's an electric car powered by software, you get my point and everything. They still don't want to categorize it as tech. They want to categorize it as automobile. So because of that, if you say you want to put the whole of technology, then you most likely will say 70%. But if we now break them down into okay, EVs, electric vehicles, all these different parts, then you can now start seeing them. So, but one thing I will say lastly concerning it is that there is no economy that will grow, and probably there's no economy that will hit $1 trillion mark without having technology at least influencing 30% to 40% of it at least. There is no economy that will grow. Right now, there's a running joke that the economy of California is higher than the entire economy of Africa. It's not necessarily a running joke, it's a fact. So, but if you look carefully at California, you discover that that's where the Silicon Valley. So you understand what is there is a lot of headquarters of big tech companies
Yeah,
in California.
yeah.
And then if you move away from Cali, you can mention at least two or three states. Even if you go to New York, where New York is like the financial services hub, you still see that a lot of technology is being used in New York. So that's what it is. There is almost no country that will hit the $1 trillion mark without having to embrace at least 30% to 40% of the technology in the way they do things. Even China, who has been usually very conservative and has focused more on manufacturing, the president Xi Jinping has already started switching towards focusing more on technology. And that's why we can see that there's a lot of rollouts of EVs in China. The amount of EVs in China are likely more than the amount of EVs in other parts of the world because and there's a
Mhm.
serious and there's a lot of subsidies. So that's just it. I see technology really taking a bigger space in the economy. If you take it as a whole, then you can choose maybe to break them.
Mhm. Amazing, amazing. Before we leave for today, I mean, this is a lot for whoever is taking this in. Before we leave, what do you think is your biggest advice for anyone starting with technology? Anyone that's starting technology for his or her business, what's your biggest?
Okay, so I have a couple of things that I usually note down. Number one is the originality. Um, tech space is a very unforgiving space. Like already from our conversations this today, you will know already that what I've explained so far is that the tech space is an unforgiving space. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a developer before you can really adopt tech for your business. No, you don't necessarily have to be a developer, but you need to understand exactly what you want. Because if you don't understand exactly what you want, you will pay so heavily for things you don't want. So, for example, if you have a platform, both of them do meetings, both of them do recordings, but one of them is a maybe a private channel, the other one is a public channel. If you don't understand your business need, and maybe your business need is that you just need a platform that works internally within your staffs, then what do? You go for the private one. Is that not correct? But if you want something that
Mhm.
maybe you want as a channel that your client can join in and they can have discussions with them, what do? You go for the public one. If you make the mistake and you go for the private one when you need the public one, or you go for the public one when you need the private one, there will be repercussions for it. So one of the first things that you need, one of the first advice I always give is originality. You as a business owner, whether you are someone that went through tech or you didn't go through tech, analyze it. What exactly is my business asking for? Not copycats. Focus on yourself in terms of originality. That's number one. Number two, once you have now identified the originality, the next thing to look for is to look for professional advice. You understand what I'm saying? I understand, like I said, tech is not necessarily when we're talking about adopting technology, it's not necessarily in terms of it to be cheaper, because that's what many people always growing. Like, okay, yes, we're spending 200 naira a year. This one I'm bringing, how can it be cheaper than what we're spending? No, it is because of the long term vision, so that you don't get obsolete, so that your whole business doesn't pack up. So when you seek professional advice, it could sometimes come at a cost, but be sure that the cost is worth it. The only way you can be sure that the cost is worth it is if you are even sure of what you want in the first place. Because many business owners are
Mm.
not sure of what they want. Originality is number one. Number two is seeking professional advice. Then number three is reviewing professional advice and taking what needs to be taken. Because sometimes clients go to meet tech guys and those ones give them professional advice and they refuse it. At the end of the day, they get burnt. Sometimes also it is also possible that it is not the client's fault. It is possible that the tech person that was reached out to is not it's not necessarily that maybe the person is not knowledgeable enough. The person may be knowledgeable enough, but the person is being biased. Maybe for example, somebody who has a particular product. If you are not careful, I'll be advising you towards you buying my product rather than advising you generally on what to do. So when you've gotten the professional advice, review it and see how you can adopt them generally. If possible, sometimes you can consult more than one person if you have the money for it. So consult more than one person, look at them all together, and then when you have now reviewed, you don't need to drop the entire atomic bomb at once, but have a clear plan for it. Okay, in the first 2 months, this is what we want to start doing. And after that, this is what we want to start doing. After that, this is what we want to start doing. After that, this is what we want to start doing. And this is how, and then always review. That okay, yes, after we started this, what are the benefits? After we started this, what are the benefits? And always learn to stop when you need to stop. It's not compulsory that you start it to the end. You always know when to stop and when to review. So that's what I would say. But in summary, is in the age of where there are a lot of competition, and competition is allowed, competition is even advised, you should just bear your mind that you need to adopt technology. At least that's one way to get an edge over your competitors.
That's big. That's big. That's big. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Thank you so much for taking time, and thank you so much for sharing insights on this topic. Thank you very much. And if God's willing, I mean, we'll definitely bring you back and talk more about technology and adoption and the new economy that the entire world is entering into. But yes, amazing. Thank you very much for your insight. Thank you very much. And that will be it for now, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around, and bye for now.
All right, bye.